Welcome back, Truth Seeker. Before we get going here, let me make sure I got the audio settings right. I should have done this before I started the video. Let's adjustment here. Okay. Should sound better. So, getting a lot of feedback from people this week after the key bridge collapse that they're really trying to wake up their friends and family and they just don't want to hear anything. And we all know how this is. But also, make sure that when you're trying to reach people with new information, you're bringing it in the most persuasive way possible, the most easily digested method. And, you know, again, you could just ask the question. You could say, don't you think it's strange that, this happens, first of all, to this key bridge, this bridge that's been there for 47 years without incident like this, but that this happens. And then the president's instantly coming out and requesting a huge amount of money, not only to repair the bridge, but also the port. So to take care of the problem, plus more. And again, it's the taxpayer that's expected to take care of it. And, there's books out there written about the concept of disaster capitalism. You could just ask a question like, have you ever heard of disaster capitalism? Oh, maybe look that up. Take a minute to look up disaster capitalism. Again, these books have been written by various authors. The idea of creating a problem to bring about an agenda or a project or to put a group of people's money in another person's pockets. This disaster capitalism idea is old. I think I first heard the disaster capitalism probably in the early 2000s. And that's when I was starting to look for answers on things. I'm sure it's been around longer than that. The early 2000s was after 9/11 when I really started to look for answers in this world. But again, you're trying to wake up your friends and family. Just, give it to them some of those. So did you notice that they reported that the bridge collapsed at 1:28 a.m.? And then you can point out that the reason I find that funny is because recall when Joe Biden was going to speak in Pittsburgh about the nation's infrastructure, and the day that he was there, the bridge collapsed, the Fern Hollow Bridge, and the date of that was 1:28. You can say, okay, you follow 1:28 in the morning, January 28th. Now it gets more interesting because, again, the bridge that just fell, the Francis Scott Key Bridge, it fell March 26th, exactly 128 days before August 1st, which is Francis Scott Key's birthday anniversary. And then also the president who asked for all the money to rebuild the bridge and the port, it just happened to happen on his 128th day of his age when he was also in Pittsburgh the other year on 128 and the bridge fell down. Again, if people can get their mind around that, then you can point out how the mayor, interestingly enough, he became the mayor on December 8th, which can be written 128. And the media has drawn some parallels to the recent Obama film when the cell phones went down, and even drawing some with the power outage in the boat, Leave the World Behind, that Netflix premiered that movie on December 8th, 128. And if you've seen the family, the darker complected family in that film, some people might say they're black people. Their name is Scott in that film when the mayor of Baltimore is Brandon Scott. And again, then if they can get to all these 128s, then you can introduce the gematria piece, and you can say there's this interesting thing. It's a old world concept, letters and numbers, ABC 1, 2, 3. If you spell out the phrase bridge collapse and add up the letters as numbers, so B be the second letter, R be the 18th, 9th, the fourth, you add up bridge collapse, it adds up to 128. And on January 28th, when the bridge collapsed, it was called the Fern Hollow 128. You can show somebody how it's based on the alphabetic order forwards and backwards, and how forwards Maryland equates to 88. And when you're on the alphabetic order in reverse, Maryland equals 128. The bridge collapsed at the 88th minute of the day at 1:28 a.m. You can show them how the word maritime equals 88 and 128. And the big argument now is this 1851 maritime law about who has to pay for this damage. Maritime in Maryland, 88th minute of the day, 128. Little simple code of ABC123, alphabetic order forwards and backwards. Again, there's so much more you can build on, but again, so often when I just stick to one number, I feel like in the last 5 years of just speaking about this publicly with strangers and just all the different scenarios that's happened, I feel like I've been able to hold over 90% of people's attention and get their interest when I just give them a one long list of one number. And then sometimes they can grasp the second number. Some people kind of fall off after the second number, but the Maryland 88 128 thing's pretty easy to grasp because it is the 88th minute of the day that's 128 in the morning. And again, just, you can branch off the conversation about predictive programming and the history of things being in entertainment before they became reality, and how recently the media is even like connecting the dots between entertainment and news. And you got to ask these people, like, what are the odds that why would the president even put out a movie about like the end of America and the grid going down? And then if you can hold the conversation, you can also take it to the point about how Janet Napolitano, again, back when Obama was president, when Joe Biden was VP, Janet Napolitano, who was a governor in Arizona, she was the head of the Department of Homeland Security. And she said the next 9/11 is not if, but when, and it's the national power grid going down, likely in a cyber attack. She was a governor in Arizona. Public Enemy just put out the album in recent years, What You Gonna Do When the Grid Goes Down, with Arizona on the cover. The March Madness tournament, the Final Four's in Arizona. And there's two different ads they're running that show the power going out. And again, the championship's the day of the eclipse. Again, the day the lights blocked out in the sky. And the new Obama film, Leave the World Behind, they have images that are like an eclipse in it. And you also have the White Lion boat in that film. That's another 128. The big ship in that boat that's the signal something's wrong. White Lion equates to 128 for another 128. And it's true that from where the White Lion is showing to the rest of the movie, hour and 28 minutes left. We were looking at this last night. And then at the end of the movie, at the 128th minute of the movie, you see a destroyed New York City where it looks like something very awful happened. Again, why all these 128s? If they can really follow, and it seems like maybe they can branch out to another number, you can point out how the end of that Obama movie about the end of the nation as we know it, in a billionaire's bunker, the name Commodus is on the wall, which, is interesting because Leave the World Behind in Gematria equates to 192. Leave the World Behind, 192, and Commodus died in the year 192. So, yeah, again, if you're finding that you can't persuade anyone, you really got to work on your approach. How's your energy level? Do you seem confident in what you're saying? Again, don't come out real anxious. Just come out like, again, these are the facts, because they are the facts. And just get people to think about, what are the odds of all of this? I mean, almost everybody has a breaking point where they got to admit, like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be just totally dismissing the idea that there is no conspiracy taking place in this nation. There isn't some purposeful cause to undermine this nation as we know it. A lot of people don't want to face that reality, but if we don't face it and then correct it, it's that Public Enemy album cover. What you going to do when the grid goes down? By the way, the title of that, not to give too many numbers, but What You Going to Do When the Grid Goes Down in Gematria equals 172, like the Jesuit motto Ad Merum Dei Gloriam. The mayor of Baltimore, who has the birthday of the eclipse, from the day he took office to the day of the crash was exactly 172 weeks later. Not an accident. Not an accident. His birthday is the day of the championship in Arizona, the day of the eclipse, when the light in the sky goes out temporarily. So I got to say one other thing. Again, shout out to our sponsor, Monero Coffee, the first sponsor we accepted on this show in the 10 years of doing it. And that was a recent acceptance. But the reason I finally accepted a sponsor is because they're a small startup company, and the man who does their marketing, the reason he even asked me is because he's followed my channel for many years. So, if you want to help out a small startup coffee company, Monero. And the one thing that I can say that's cool about their product is you get the packaging. And what's nice on the packaging, it shows you exactly where the coffee came from, what elevation it was grown at. It's nice to know something about what you're consuming, or at least where it came from. So, and like I said, if you do drink coffee, please, please try not to support those big chains like Starbucks, because look at who's behind the Starbucks of the world, a Billy Goat Gates, and I doubt these other companies are that much better. But yeah, if you can, just in all your consumption habits, try to support things that are local, keep money in your community, not these big box retailers that are taking over the world. I know it's hard for a lot of people because of this the world we live in, like you want to shop where things are cheapest, but remember, sometimes you shop at that place that's cheapest, it puts the good jobs out of business in your own community, and then it's just like everything is gradually getting worse. But yeah, try and buy local, try and support independent business. And again, if you're a coffee drinker, you might want to check out Monero. There is a link in the description. I was waiting for him to get it to me, and turned out he sent it to me a few days ago, and I just noticed it today. But yeah, for those of you guys who are interested in the product, if you click the link in the description, I guess it just gives an automatic 15% discount if you are interested in trying out their coffee supply. And like I told you guys the other day, I don't have a good taste palette, so like I don't appreciate fancy things. Um, and to me, as long as coffee's hot and black, it tastes good enough, and that's how I've always drank it. And I try not to put all the junk food in it. Um, my dad, who's been drinking coffee a lot longer, I'm letting him try out the product. Him and his wife, they both drink coffee every morning too. And what they say they like about it is they said it has a really nice aroma. So if aroma's your thing, maybe you'll pick up on that. But yeah, I'm just happy that we got a truth seeker who works for this business, and if it does better, he does better. And I thought we'd give it a shot with a first time sponsor. So yeah, for everyone who asked about the coffee when I mentioned it last week, there is now a link in the description. Again, he said you just click it, 15% off. So I wanted to plug that as well. I should have plugged it a few days ago, but it's been so hectic around here. It's been trying to keep up with everything. But yeah, please don't give up on your friends and family. Like I'm going to continue. Again, I've been able to reach a lot of my friends and family slowly but surely over time, but I still haven't reached my sister. And I maintain that someday she's going to come around. Someday that she'll do a live stream with me, explaining like why it took her so long to come around. Because there's a lot of people like my sister. They just they can't admit that this government and this media has been lying to them, because they've trusted it with their hearts and their mind, and they don't want to admit that there's been this betrayal. And then it pokes at their ego too. So yes, this 128 pattern, this key bridge thing, before everyone forgets about it, like how everyone forgot about Maui in no time. Remember, Maui happened on 8/8, and this thing happened at the 88th minute of the day. 88, special number, right? Back to the future. It's the time travel number. But anyway, rather than going down that whole route, thank you again to everyone who hits the like and the share. I wanted to keep this video relatively short. We're approaching 15 minutes. But yeah, just comb over all the 128 information until you remember it. Till it gets stuck in your head, and you can just explain it to somebody in an elevator speech. All of these 128s that they just did in Baltimore aren't to be forgotten. They're like the 128s we were talking about the day Fern Hollow came down. And hold up, you know what? I let's do something real quick, because I think in my mind I just remember that there was one other 128 with Fern Hollow. It might have been exactly 128 weeks into Biden being president as well. Hold up. Because I was just thinking, I was like, wait a minute, I'm only mentioning the date in the gematria of the bridge, but I remember there being more to that. Hold up. It collapsed January 28th, 2022. No, it wouldn't have been 128 weeks into his administration because he took office January 20th, 2022. I forget. I'm gonna have to go back and look, but I feel like there was more 128 on it. You see how Fern Hollow's on the 79th parallel? See, this might be the information that's just too much for most people. But we were talking about where 128 and 79 both fit in with the current bridge collapse in Baltimore, which that Jennifer Hemmenby, one of the speakers there, she drew the parallel to Fern Hollow. But bridge collapse is 128 and 79. So Fern Hollow comes down on 128 on the 79th parallel. Remember, Francis Scott Key died in 1779, and the Salvador Dali painting, The Broken Bridge in the Dream, which equals 128, it's drawn parallels to this thing since the boat that hit the bridge and took it down was the Dali. And from 45 to 2024 is 79 years later. So, but yeah, having to explain the four base ciphers, that can lose the person on the introductory level. You keep it A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, which you can with Fern Hollow and bridge collapse. That's like the entry point, so you don't get the deer in the headlights look. Oh, I just realized I got the wrong screenshot up. My bad. But yeah, actually, let me get it up here so you can see what I was talking about. My bad. All right, let's see. Boom. The four base ciphers. Might be too much to explain the four base ciphers, but the alphabetic order A is 1 up to Z is 26 you can get. If the person is following and you get the fourth, you can, again, show them that 128.79 parallel. All right. Thank you again, Paula the Kitchen Witch. So, yeah. Owed this stream to everybody who just need a little bit more motivation for trying to reach their friends and family, and also to the kind sponsor we have of the show, whose link I forgot to put up days ago when I should have. So it's in the description now if you want to check it out. And again, if you're a coffee drinker and you try it out, give me the feedback too. I'd love to know what you think of the product. Is it a good product? Should we continue to sponsor Monero? Again, the one thing they have going for me is I like that their guy in marketing shares our work and wants to support our work. So hopefully it can be a mutual benefit. We'll leave it there for now, Truth Seeker. And until next time.